Hello, this is Kevin with Crossing Out the I, and today I just wanted to go over a few of the key principles of Catholic social teaching. The first principle is the unalterable life and dignity of the human person, from which we get the right to life and the right to human equality. The second principle is family and communal life, from which we get the right to work and the right to freedom of association. The third key principle includes the consideration of the rights and responsibilities that are demanded and provided to each human person based off of their image and the likeness of God. This is to be understood as pursuant to the common good. Key principle number 4 is that there should be particular care for the poor and vulnerable. The fifth key principle is that there is a certain dignity of work, and there should therefore be associated rights of workers. Number 6 is the principle of solidarity and subsidiarity, and number 7 is the principle of care for creation. Now, there is a proper hierarchy of rights and responsibilities that one needs to take into account from a Catholic social teaching perspective. The most important thing is to ensure that these rights do not supersede one another, but remain in their appropriate hierarchy. For example, if the two considerations of care for creation and particular care for the poor and vulnerable clash, where undue consideration of care for creation would result in the living conditions for the poor and vulnerable being worsened, then without a doubt it must be that, in that particular matter, the care for the poor and vulnerable must take precedence over care for creation. This is not to say that care for creation would then get no consideration, only that it must give way to care for the poor. Human beings, by merit of their standing as creations in the image and likeness of God, as stated in Genesis chapter 1, verse 26, have a special dignity which makes the life of men and women the utmost consideration in the social calculation. This is especially ratified in Jesus, who, according to the compendium of the social doctrine of the Church, through his life, death, and resurrection, is mysteriously united to every single man and woman. There's one final example that I think would be worthwhile to consider, and I found it in one of my textbooks that I'm using for a class. When you dive into it a little bit more deeply, it becomes a little more concerning, and it does have to do with this hierarchy of rights that we've been discussing. So, the textbook author quotes from Reverend Jim Wallace, who was, I suppose at the time, teaching some classes at Harvard, and he relates this story. He's talking to a woman, and her daughter is graduating from Harvard, and this is what she says. When my daughter was born, I was a low-income woman at the time. If I hadn't gotten food stamps and health care, I would have aborted my daughter. And now she is graduating from Harvard. I want you to tell people that if they want to prevent abortions, they need to support low-income women like me. End quote. This, granted, it's a beautiful story in a sense where, yes, this woman got the support that she needed, and now her daughter's graduating from Harvard. And again, the preferential option for the poor and vulnerable needs to be a consideration. That is not optional. However, without the fuzzy lens, this reads like a hostage situation. This woman is basically saying, if you hadn't given me, or if you didn't give me the things that I wanted, I will kill this person. Pope John Paul II makes it absolutely clear in Evangelium Vitae to claim the right to abortion, infanticide, and euthanasia, and to recognize that right in law means to attribute to human freedom a perverse and evil significance, that of an absolute power over others and against others. This is especially awful when considering the number of pro-life centers who are willing to provide low-cost assistance to pregnant women, such as the woman that we just heard about in the story. But the teaching of the Church is clear. The right to life is the highest in the hierarchy of rights. That's it. That there can be no, the poor need to be supported, and therefore we're going to provide them options for abortion or contraception or euthanasia. Imagine if this woman had said, let's take an alternative scenario. Let's imagine this woman is graduating from Harvard, and she said, if I hadn't received food stamps and health care, then I would have euthanized my grandmother who was living with me at the time, who I had to take care of. Most of us would go, yeah, that's not right. Like, you need to continue to take care of that person, and we'll do our best to support you, but that's not okay. So We need to ensure that we have a proper understanding of these hierarchies so that we do not fall prey to these kinds of things. This is Kevin. This has been Kevin with Crossing Out the I. Thank you for listening. Hope you have a wonderful day. Goodbye.